When the all-electric EX30 was introduced in 2023, it was Volvo's smallest SUV yet and its fastest accelerating vehicle ever. So if you don't need to move a lot of people or things, but you have to do it in a hurry, listen up. The 2025 model year marks the EX30's debut in the US market, where it's available in only 2 trim levels: Plus, which has a $46,195 starting price, and Ultra, which has an MSRP of $47,895. I spent close to a week in an EX30 Ultra with an as-tested price of $48,395. Was the 2025 Volvo EX30's small size a big deal? Or was its 3.4 second 0 to 60 time thrilling enough to make me forget about its compact dimensions? Keep watching and I'll let you know.
Just bought your dream car or thinking about a new ride? Whether it's a brand new vehicle like the one featured in this video or your trusty everyday driver, our partners at LegendaryCarProtection.com have your back. Recommended by ClassicCars.com, they offer top-notch coverage for new cars as well as your current classic, collector, exotic, or daily driver. Because your dream car deserves a dream protection plan, visit www.LegendaryCarProtection.com to get your free quote today.
Just like with the trim levels, Volvo keeps the color palette of the EX30 nice and simple. There are 5 colors, most of which are inspired by the beauty of Scandinavia. My test car here comes in a color called moss yellow, which Volvo says was inspired by the lichen on Scandinavian granite rocks. Let's just say my dad didn't have any trouble spotting me at the airport when I went to pick him up. Another nod to Volvo's Scandinavian roots are these headlights, which it calls Thor's hammer. So for all you Marvel fans out there, just know that there's no tow truck strong enough to tow the EX30 because it wouldn't be able to lift these headlights. In between those, instead of a mesh grille with an intricate pattern, there's this solid body color panel. Since this is an EV, you don't need the airflow that an ICE engine would need. And in front, right in the middle, you have this frameless Volvo badge. Black trim starts below the headlights and flows into the lower front fascia and the air dam at the bottom, which I think keeps the EX30 from looking blockheaded. Coming to the sides, you can see these pronounced molded-in fender flares, which hint at the power that the EX30 has. Below those is a set of angular black and silver 19-inch wheels. According to Volvo, it tuned the McPherson strut front and 5-link rear suspension setups to be comfortable, yet rewarding and agile. And in profile, you can see that the EX30, at least as it's configured now, is a sandwich of colors. So there's black for the mirror arms and caps, A and B pillars, and the roof, and there's more black for the lower body trim. In between, you have all this moss yellow. So that contrast not only makes the exterior of the EX30 more visually dynamic, but it also makes the body sides look sleeker and slimmer. And just in case, for whatever reason, you forgot which particular Volvo you're looking at, Volvo makes sure to put badges in the back. Over the past several decades, Volvo design has gone through the boxy Swedish brick, fast wagon, and curvy and elegant phases. Now we're in the age of Volvo hybrids and EVs. The EX30 simplifies some of the brand's styling while honoring its Swedish heritage in an eye-catching way. This black roof spoiler makes the EX30 look a little sportier, but it also conceals the center high-mounted stoplight as well as the washer nozzle for this rear wiper. On the sides, you have these stacked LED light bars for the taillights, and lower down you see this basic design repeated. So there's more stacked taillight bars here as well as the reverse lights, and then you have this black trim that forms this frame around this sort of window of this body color panel that gives you a view of this Volvo lettering. Now while I'm back here, this is a perfect opportunity to show you the cargo area of the EX30. So I just press this concealed button right there in the middle of that trim, and this opens up to the rear cargo area. So with the rear seats up, you get 12.4 cubic feet of space. If you manually lower them, that more than doubles to 27.8 cubic feet. And right now, the cargo floor is in one of its 2 positions. So if you need to store a little larger, taller cargo, what you can do is lift up on this, and that front panel there will flip up, and then you can actually lower this panel a little bit. So that way you can load larger items without taking this partition out and storing it somewhere separately. On both sides you have these cargo tie-down points, as well as small pockets of space for storing smaller items. Another cool thing about this area is, given how bright this paint is, this car stands out wherever you go. People are going to see it. Perhaps they'll even target it because it's so visible, it stands out so much. But you do have this privacy shade to keep whatever you're holding back here more concealed. Now, if you don't know exactly what you can put in the back of the EX30, Volvo makes it pretty easy for you. It has this will it fit diagram and breaks it down. Now, I know from experience that I was able to fit my lunch bag, my briefcase, 2 carry-on suitcases, and a backpack back here with just the smallest adjustment. Whether you choose the EX30 Plus or Ultra, you get dual electric motors that produce 422 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, which are routed through a 1-speed automatic and all-wheel drive. In other words, this Volvo outguns a C6 Corvette with the LS2. The EX30 also outruns it with a 0 to 60 time of 3.4 seconds. If you'd rather go far than fast, these are the numbers to know. 116 mpge in the city, 100 on the highway, and 109 combined. Over 100 miles, the EX30 will consume 31 kilowatt hours. If you drive it right, the EX30 Ultra can go 253 miles on a full charge. According to Volvo's consumer website, you can charge the 69 kilowatt hour battery pack from 10 to 80% in 26.5 minutes with the EX30's 153 kilowatts of DC fast charging capability. During my longest charging session at an Electrify America station, I plugged into the built-in CCS1 port and took the battery from 19 to 90% charge with about 50 kilowatt hours in 37 minutes. It costs a total of $32.19. In the base Plus trim, the EX30 comes equipped with features such as dual motors, all-wheel drive, a heat pump, 19-inch wheels, a tinted glass panoramic roof, a power tailgate, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen. If you level up to Ultra, you get additional safety and driver assistance features. Those include rear auto braking at low speeds, hands-free park pilot assist, a 360-degree camera with 3D views, lane change assist, and pilot assist, which can maintain a following distance, keep the EX30 centered in its lane, make lane changes, and even adjust the speed according to speed limits and curves in the road. That doesn't include the standard features such as collision avoidance, the blind spot information system with steer assist, and more. Volvo offers the EX30 Ultra with 4 interior color schemes in different materials. My test car has mist pixel knit wool and recycled polyester fabric and woven flax trim, another nod to Volvo's Scandinavian heritage. The little Swedish flag seat tags leave no mystery about where Volvo started. I mentioned the Corvette before, and now I'll mention it again. The EX30 has a steering wheel that's best described as a squircle, much like the wheel in the C8. It allows you to activate the pilot assist feature and change the volume of the audio system, although it might not be obvious that you can do that through the steering wheel at first glance. If you want to get pretty much anything done in the EX30, you have to look forward and to your right. That's where the 12.3-inch touchscreen that controls pretty much everything in here is located. So there's no gauge cluster right in front of the steering wheel. There's also no HUD. So for instance, you want to see if, make sure you're in park or reverse or whatever it is, you have that indicator at the top of the portrait style touchscreen. That's also where you see your speed and do everything else. So right now we're looking at the main menu, so the navigation map, and this is also where you change things like your mirror controls. That's how you adjust the power mirrors in here, because these door panels, while they're nice and they look like they're out of an upscale furniture store, they don't have any power window controls or power lock controls. It's just clean and simple. So to adjust the power mirrors, you do it in here as well as other things. And like other cars, you access the infotainment system, the wireless Apple CarPlay, stuff like that. No big deal. But as you can see, there are no physical controls for the audio system, for the Harman Kardon sound bar. So the driver can use these steering wheel mounted controls, which are not that clearly labeled. You know, there's an up and down arrows, but otherwise, you know, they don't really make it clear, oh, this is for the audio system. And then right here, you've got the column mounted shifter, frees up space down here. But if the passenger wants to adjust the volume for the audio system, they either use these tap controls here, plus and minus, or they use this slider. And there's also no physical controls for the HVAC system. Everything's a little too clean, a little too streamlined. So to do that, once again, you or your front passenger access the controls for the dual zone climate system using the touchscreen. So you've got the temperatures down here. This is also where you turn on the heat function for the steering wheel and the front seats. And the other HVAC controls, you know, auto, things like that. And this is a nice function actually. The auto mode has 3 different settings, low, medium, and high. I like that. And then, you know, you can adjust the climate zones like the fan split and all that, and turn on recirc, things like that. What this makes clear to me, and what's very frustrating about this interior, you know, I've driven cars for decades. I've driven a ton of different press cars for more than a decade. I've driven electric cars, and this car has just had such a steep learning curve for me. You know, the fact that you adjust the power mirrors and the touchscreen, things like that. And what that does is not only make things, in my opinion, needlessly complicated, but it also takes away the element of spontaneity, you know, because it's like, oh, well, I want to adjust this control. It's like, oh, well, I got to go into the touchscreen to do it. You know, it adds time, and especially if there's like a layer or 2 of menus that you have to go through to do that, it takes that spontaneity away. It's very frustrating. I feel like, yes, this interior is attractive and slick, but I feel like there are just certain things that worked for decades in other cars in terms of layout and accessibility, but for some reason, they're not that way in this car. So it is distinctive, you know, and it does have a certain, you know, sleekness and cleanliness to it in terms of the design, but it's at the expense of functionality, which I find very frustrating. Now, if you want to charge your phone, you have a wireless charging pad down here below the dashboard, and then to the right there's another slot for your phone, but it's not a charger. So you have some phone storage there, and then there's this covered storage area with these 2 doors, side hinge doors. They open up to a shallow storage area, which, you know, I've been able to fit my ID badge and my wallet and my house keys and all that kind of stuff. There's also 2 USB ports for charging your phone another way. And further up here, this ties into just how frustrating this car has been. When I first got in it, I wanted to know, well, these doors are so clean and simple, how do I lower the front windows? That should not be a question in any vehicle, if you ask me. You know, maybe I'm old school, but I just feel like something that basic and simple, it shouldn't be a mystery. So I looked here, and there's these 2 switches for power window controls. And then I saw this touch button marked rear. So I thought, okay, at the time I didn't know it was a touch button. I just saw it was marked rear. And I thought, okay, well, this clearly lowers the rear windows. How do I lower the front windows? What I didn't know, and what took me an enragingly long time to figure out, was that you have to hit this touch button marked rear to toggle between the front and second rows for the power window control. So when rear is lit up, it lowers the rear windows. When it's not lit up, it lowers the front windows. Yeah, that was a very annoying process. Below that, you have a pair of pop-out cup holders. Now, if you don't want this frame in place, you can slide it back and you have a more open storage area. And what's interesting here, and perhaps they intend this to be in conjunction with the cup holder frame, are these icons that show coffee cups. So I can imagine you know, yes, you could fit a coffee cup here without the frames in place, but I would not want to take a turn in this, especially, you know, unleashing the power with a coffee cup here, because it would splash everywhere. You do have these frames in place, but this presents another potential problem. Now, I don't know about you, but I typically drink water out of a tall metal water bottle. And I do not like the idea of having that full of water and heavy and this high up, let's say, and being this close to this giant touchscreen, the nerve center for this entire car, especially if I had to, you know, panic brake. I don't want to think about what might happen to the screen in a scenario like that. Now, to get these out of the way, you just push them back in 2 stages. And as you can imagine, since these are retractable, this center area here for the center console, which would otherwise be a lidded storage area in another car, since the cup holders go into that, this doesn't open at all. You know, that's your storage space right there. Now, going up here, you can see controls for like hazard button, overhead lights, things like that. What you won't see are any controls for the massive panoramic sunroof, because it's fixed into place, so it doesn't retract. There's also no shade for it, so no controls for that either. According to Volvo, the tint on this panoramic roof blocks about 80% of the sun's heat from coming through. But personally, I would rather just have a retractable shade and give up some style points in the process just to be that much more comfortable. In going to the rear view mirror, it gives you an idea of just how limited the rearward visibility is on this car. Now, granted, the EX30 is small, so there's not a ton of real estate to keep track of, but the rearward visibility is compromised because you have a short rear window and you have the headrests for the second row eating up some of that visibility. Now, speaking of the rear row, we're gonna go back there and take a look at what's going on. In the second row, passengers get their own USB-C ports, and they get plenty of headroom thanks to the panoramic sunroof. They also have their own dedicated power window switches. That's pretty nice. Unfortunately, all those things come at the expense of other things, such as adult-sized legroom, HVAC vents, a full down center armrest, and cup holders. Now, there is this removable tub at the bottom of the center console, which right now is holding our media supervisor's water bottle, but there are no actual cup holders back here. So I would not trust this tub to keep my latte from spilling on the carpet. Once I got past the EX30's learning curve, I found the driving experience was a lot less frustrating. Volvo didn't really mess with the simplicity of gas, brake, and steering. For the steering, you can have it the way you want. It's kind of like buying a mattress. So there's soft, medium, and firm. And as far as the braking, you can use one pedal drive to just have the car slow itself down, and it'll even bring it to a complete stop and engage the brake auto hold feature at a stop like right now. But I found that typically when you let it do that, yes, it is kind of full service, it is convenient, but it's a little clunky when it's bringing you to a stop. When I apply the brakes myself, I found the pedals a little soft and there's a little too much travel in it up top. I would appreciate just a little quicker, a little sooner engagement up top. And as far as the acceleration, you know, the numbers don't lie. This is a 2-ton car, but it does have quite a bit of power to offset it. So it accelerates quickly and aggressively, but you can also put it in the performance all-wheel drive mode, which is a completely different experience, even at highway speeds. And I'm hoping I get a chance to show you just how quick this thing is. Even at highway speeds in the performance all-wheel drive mode, it just pulls. Like it's as if it's going, you know, 20 to 60 instead of 70 and beyond. You know, it's very aggressive. It's like being, you know, shot in a laser beam, just smooth, and you're almost teleporting the way it feels. So let's see if we get a chance to really open this up. So right now I have it in the one pedal drive in just the regular drive mode. Just a quick little pull there. Might have to wait a little bit to try out the performance all-wheel drive mode. But this also gives me a quick chance to tell you about the pilot assist feature. So you can push down on the transmission shifter on the column and it'll put it in pilot assist mode. So it'll manage the steering, it'll keep a following distance for you, and you can adjust the speed using these buttons on the left of the steering wheel. So, you know, it's like adaptive cruise control, but it also has steering input. It'll keep you centered in the lane. Now, one issue I found with that, and this is something that I've discovered with other vehicles with similar technology, is it'll keep you centered in your lane the way it wants to, but it's not necessarily it doesn't keep the distance between itself and other vehicles in the surrounding lanes the way that I would. So I found that it gets a little too close to either side of the lines for my comfort. You know, it's not the way I would drive, but it does keep you centered in the lane. It's just not natural for me, but everybody's different. The suspension is on the firmer side. Now, I wouldn't say it's sporty. You know, this doesn't feel terribly athletic, but then again, it's not supposed to. But it is firm. What I would rather do in this car is just blaze up an HOV lane instead of burn down a back road. You know, it's just not that kind of car. It's meant for a different purpose. Since this is an EV, you know, obviously you don't have an internal combustion engine making the sounds that it makes, so you're a lot more aware of the other noises that can come through when you don't have an engine operating in front of you. So in this car, it's particularly the road noise, you know, a little bit of tire roar, tire hum, but the wind noise is not that pronounced. But yeah, you're definitely aware of the surfaces you're traveling over and how the tires react to them.
The 2025 Volvo EX30 Ultra is a combination of two extremes, small size and big power. That's a familiar formula in the ICE world, but the EX30 has odd and foreign ways of doing even basic things. Its oversimplifying just led to complications. There's no confusion about how powerful and quick it is though. In a straight line, it's thrilling from the front row. But no amount of instant torque can divert attention away from the second row's exclusions and limitations. If you're interested in the 2025 Volvo EX30 Ultra, take it for a test drive. Of course, you need to figure out if it meets your budget, lifestyle, and driving range needs, but I suggest answering these questions too. Is it intuitive to me? Can I get used to its way of doing things? Can I live with the EX30's user interface and controls on a daily basis? My name is Derek Shaky, and this has been my experience with the 2025 Volvo EX30 Ultra.